Good morning to all the participants. Let us move further for the first day, first session. This first session is about the smart and sustainable construction, which will be delivered by Professor Dr. R.K. Gajjar Madam, Principal of LD College of Engineering, Ahmedabad, Gujarat. Let me introduce them. As I stated on the inaugural function, he is a great researcher, motivator, administrator, and academician. It is the privilege to have her with us. She is working as a principal of LD College of Engineering, Ahmedabad, and also a member of Research Council of the Gujarat Technological University, Ahmedabad, and AICT, New Delhi. She has completed her bachelor's and master's degree from the LD College of Engineering and doctorate degree from MS University, Baroda, Gujarat. She was a vice chancellor in charge at GTU as well as IITE Gandhinagar. She has an amazing teaching experience of 35 years and academic administrative experience of more than 25 years. She has received many prestigious awards like GTU Pedagogical Leadership Award in February 2019, Outstanding Engineering Personality Award by Institute of Engineers in January 19. Next is Honorable CM Gujarat for the Best Innovative Practices Awards in November 2018. Eminent Civil Engineers by the Institute of Engineers in September 2017. Devang Mehta IT Awards in 2017. Recently, under her leadership, LD College of Engineering got an award on Outstanding Engineering Institute for promoting industry-academia interface. More than 66 research papers have been published by Madam in national and international journals. She has guided 6 PhD students and 30 MTech students. She has given more than 36 expert lectures on various different occasions. She has also completed 17 major projects. She has served as a chairperson, and member of different councils, bodies of AICT, GTU, Gujarat, Government of Gujarat boards also. I warmly welcome at this occasion to Madam requested in this particular FDP. It is my and my institute privilege that she has accepted the invitation. I kindly request Madam to disseminate their expertise to the participant. Thank you very much, Madam.
Thank you, Kaushal Bhai. As I already said, it is always a pleasure. So I think we can start directly. Can I start sharing my screen?
Yes, definitely, ma'am. Definitely, please.
Yeah. Thank you. Is the slide visible to all?
Yes, it is visible. It is visible.
Okay. Yeah, fine. Kaushal Bhai, I would like you to keep giving me feedback just in case the sound or the slideshow there is some hitch, right? So that everyone else is not put to any discomfort. Yeah. Sure. So big welcome. Thank you very much. And let's start looking at the most I should say interesting as well as concerning and complex topic for any civil engineer. This is the time that we need to relook at this entire profession, and therefore when I was asked what is it that I would like to talk on, I thought that this is the most relevant topic to this FDP today. We are going to talk about some concepts. We will look at what are the indicators, how we as civil engineers impact, how we contribute, and then we will also look at some really, really good case studies which are being done in our country itself. Why look at other countries? There are good examples happening here. So let's start with this whole idea of smart and sustainable. It's a dangerous mix. So let's try to first of all disseminate to put separately into a clean, nice box what we mean by sustainable and what we mean by smart. If we talk about sustainability itself, it has different connotations, different meanings to each one from the point of view to which they are pertaining to, they are concerned, and therefore sustainability keeps changing meaning. But in general, the accepted meaning is about the environmental friendliness, and so there are different connotations, different words which people keep using. It's eco-friendly, or someone will say it's green, and then come these other parts also where people have started adding the connotation of smart, intelligent, and there comes our issue. So in general, when people talk sustainability, they inherently also have started adding meaning of smart. So far, sustainability was being looked into because it has been quite some time since the sustainable goals, and the entire globe has been putting at various forums this whole issue of sustainability. So there was a lot of gearing up, there was a lot of connotation, there was a lot of understanding, incorporating into our daily practices these aspects of sustainability to whatever level possible for each one in the profession. So let's in general define sustainability. It embraces the environment and its long-term endurance. Long-term endurance on what? On the humanity, on the entire population of the humans on this globe. So for the public and private sectors who take this issue of sustainability, it's normally about the environment. It's normally about the long-term effect and its endurance. So they are critical development issues, and it concerns the responsible use of resources. Now we look at resources in terms of what? In terms of a circular economy, fostering social equity. So these are the connotations which we have to incorporate when we talk sustainability. Specifically about the construction sector, it does make a huge and significant contribution to this whole aspect. And therefore, it is very imperative that whatever is built by us, it must perform sustainability. So we need to look at the environmental aspect, we need to look at the economic aspect, and also the social aspect. So coming to this whole concept of the construction industry, it is a sector which is capable of making a significant contribution to these objectives. If you look at the vast amount of material, the energy resources that are required just to produce and then to maintain the built environment, it is humongous. The kind of sustainability issues that are involved just in producing and maintaining the built environment. Add to that the emissions, the waste generated, and the entire use cycle. of all the physical infrastructure that we produce. If you look at the whole extent, not just globally, at our own doorstep, locally, we talk about urbanization. In fact, we talk about rural communities being given the advantage of an urban lifestyle because it also means good quality of life. So urbanization is a big responsibility. Along with it comes this whole need for creating the infrastructure. But along with the infrastructure comes this huge responsibility of producing, maintaining, and also about looking at the emissions and the waste generation. So if we are able to gauge the amount of responsibility, the amount of concern, the amount of need that is arising even at our local level, multiply it and look at it from the point of view of this entire planet. Everybody needs to be urbanized, and therefore everybody has to perform sustainably. By sustainably, as of now, we can say that we want to put our footprint on the environment. At the same time, look at the economic part of it and also the social responsibility. And therefore, we are, even though it is more of a connotation, a huge matrix that keeps on adding more and more and more meaning, but we are fairly clear, we are fairly conversant with the idea of sustainability. It can be defined. And there is some form of a universal acceptance of what everybody needs to do. There are standards being created, but if we add that connotation of smart, it becomes really, really difficult for us to understand, not only understand, to implement. Because there are hugely variant connotations, definitions. There is no universally accepted single definition because everybody looks at smart in their own perception. In fact, just a few years ago, smart meant digital. So everybody thought, not my concern, something has to be done digitally and it is smart. But no, we cannot avoid that kind of a vacuum, that kind of a compartment. We need to, however challenging it is, we need to bring in smart and sustainable put together in the same basket. And therefore, it is very important that we start looking at both the aspects from the same point of view. As I have already put the context, sustainable, yes, we are able to understand, we know a little bit. In fact, there is a lot that is already being implemented by policies world over, by governments, by corporations. There are also the smart connotations where every city is now competing for the smart city status, but put together smart and sustainable comes in this whole need of how to put together these connotations and still be able to say that yes, we are producing a sustainable economy. Yes, we are producing a smart economy. So therefore, also the largest, the most dominant industry, the construction, the built environment, the infrastructure domain has manifold components, many systemic changes that need to come into our practices, that need to be put together not just in the organizational structure, because big organizations may be able to still address it, handle it. They have the means and resources and are also being given a lot of responsibility to maintain this. But it comes down to each individual. Unless and until we are not clear, unless and until we have not internalized what this is all about, we will not be able to implement, we will not be able to take it forward, and as teachers, we will not be able to convey it clearly to our students. Because, and why am I stressing so emphatically on this? Very soon, there are going to be legislative provisions, there are going to be legal provisions, there are going to be issues which become mandatory. You may have achieved the smart status, you might not have achieved the sustainability status. You may have been able to incorporate sustainability into your profession. At the same time, you will be impacted by factors of that smart city components, which might not gel well with the sustainability. And therefore, it becomes a very, very complex and cryptic situation for us as an engineering profession. So let's start with sustainable. The general meaning, the general connotation: least carbon footprint, minimum wastage of energy and resources, and recycling processes, which have to be mandatorily part of your design process. I will show you later on, when we move further on into the slides, why we need to put it in one big cycle itself right now. Smart, as I said, has to be connoted with sustainable, but as of now, there is a clear divide. What it means is improve productivity, minimize the whole life cost, and see here, the general connotation is maybe you can look at the sustainability aspect and improve it a bit, but at the same time, maximize the user's benefit. So what are we looking at when we look at smart construction? As I said, sustainability, yes, very important. I'm going to pay a lot of my focus later on onto the slides. But first of all, because we are still not very well imbibed about what we construe as smart when we talk construction, when we talk infrastructure. So smart construction is good building designs, construction and operation that can be made possible through collaborative partnerships. How can that happen? Sitting in one office in one city, we are talking these big terms about design, construction, operation through a collaboration of all the experts sitting wherever they are. Therefore comes this use of digital technologies. Also, the industrial manufacturing techniques. Because you need to improve productivity, you need to minimize the whole life cost. At the same time, you need to improve sustainability. And therefore, to cater to the growing demand of each component of the built environment, it is going to stretch the entire construction sector beyond its capacity, beyond even its capability. How can you improve sitting in one local office? How can you take control and be exactly sure of what is happening on a distant, far off site where you just have a virtual platform? You are talking different domains, different experts sitting on that virtual platform. Each one has his her own demands, each one has their own mandates, and yet you have to move ahead very quickly, very economically on that platform to make your construction and infrastructure sustainable. That is where the smartness comes in. That is where we need to really get out of our boxes, get out of that entire domain of just structures, construction, materials as your domains. You have to understand what are those technologies, because digital transformation is here and now. because digital transformation is right there in your hands in that mobile phone. So far, we have used that mobile app. You have used the tool without trying to understand the technique. But at the same time, in understanding the tool, you need to create this whole knowledge, this whole transformation, this whole ability to use every aspect of the smart mobile. Similarly, you need to be able to understand and use to your advantage all these digital technologies. Not that you need to sit down and learn everything about AI, not that you need to learn every single thing about how to use AI or how AI is created or what is big data or what is cloud, how to put big data into cloud. These were just till very recently very alien technologies to us as far as our construction and civil engineering profession was concerned. But these are the norms of the day, and therefore there is no go but to understand them, to understand at least how to use them. We cannot stay shut into our own boxes in our compartments and say, I am the master of construction, I am the master of design, I am the master of materials, I am the master of materials management. No. You may know your materials as no one else on this globe can. But if you do not know these digital technologies, you will be sidelined. We as a professional will give over all the control to unknown domains, domains which are digitally very smart, domains which have all the technology at their tips, and yet do not know as much as us in terms of the construction practices, in terms of how the material behaves. And therefore, there lies this whole danger of putting everything in the hands of unknown domains if we do not sit down right now and adopt the digital transformation. So let us look at a few of these technologies which are currently absolutely relevant. The days have gone that, yeah, maybe BIM is there and AI is there and I will someday learn about it, know how it happens. No. Get up and start looking at those tools. These are the tools which are going to drive our profession. And so our domain has now increased multiple times. We need to know everything that a civil engineer needs to know about design, material, construction, as against also we need to know how to use BIM, how AI is getting into the construction technology. So as I said, it can be sustainable only if, now I'm changing the connotation to that word, only if you understand and use technology in the smart way. That is why the smart and sustainable, those separate domains have to be put together, and we only are the professionals in this domain who can do it together. Otherwise, they will stay separate, and you at the other end will be put to a lot of challenges trying to balance those two domains. You are not the master of the smart technologies. You are maybe a master of your construction and infrastructure, but there are those two aspects of sustainability. Yes, you know, and you are under control of smartness. Maybe you need to sit up, hold tight, and learn. Very briefly, look at what I mean. I have just named three. There are many other technologies that are coming in daily. Like, for example, what is Python? Why do you need to learn? What does it do? Does it help you to create apps? Would an app help you? Are the questions you have to start asking all your digital friends. all your friends across in the other domains of computer science or IoT or the instrumentation or the electronics people. Do not shy of asking questions. Do not move away or hesitate to ask questions, because this is the time that you need to relearn, reframe your entire domain of knowledge and frame it so that you come out as smart users. And only then will you be able to answer to the new generations about how well were you aware and how well you have implemented sustainability. So let's look at BIM. What is the building information modeling? It is a platform which will help you to put together all the design, the planning, and the execution, the testing parallelly. You can optimize it, you can manage the workflow, and therefore what happens is that at some point of time you will be completely in control of all the factors that are going to impact what? Just the construction part? No, impact the entire life cycle of the building, including the risk management, and therefore you will be in control and you will be able to say what works, what does not work if you talk sustainability. So you need to, I mean, it is no more a fancy word. It is no more something that you can say that yes, it is adopted by the industry and we'll talk about it sometime. No, talk about it right now. BIM helps create virtual 3D models. It integrates projects related to relevant information. All the information that is needed can be put into it. Mind well, it is a humongous amount of work, humongous amount of data management, but at the end of the day, you have a beautiful picture of what is happening in all the domains, in the inventory, what needs to be put at what site, at what time, etc. This allows all the project participants to understand. What happens is the designer has given the design. On the site, the construction engineer looks at the design and there comes this whole balance of how much material, what material, when to get it, and there is a third entity which supplies the material. But here, sitting on BIM, everyone is knowing, yes, this is the material needed at this point of time. The inventory has to address it. This is the material which should be on the way, etc., 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 etc. It definitely helps reduce the project cost. It shortens the construction time, and therefore it improves the project quality. When we talk quality, yes, we also talk sustainability. If you talk about the artificial intelligence, some examples of AI related to our industry: automate the elements of design and construction. The algorithms are developed to automate the assembly of, say, prefabricated building components. Very recently, you must have seen in the news about prefabricated building that has come up just within a very short span. How does that happen? Just get into the shoes of that entire construction team, the entire project management team. It is not as easy. You can prefabricate on a remote site. The prefabricated parts come on site and try looking at a plate and a hole and a nut going into that hole. What happens if the hole is too large? There is a play. And therefore, there are other forces which you had not foreseen which come into it. What happens, worse still, if the hole is smaller? the nut just won't go into it. Very similarly, if we have prefabricated building components, very smart components, everything has been designed, put on the truck and arriving over there, it has to fit in exactly as it had been designed on the table. And therefore, you need AI. Similarly, Internet of Things, vital interface, connecting the physical and the digital operations. As I said earlier also, it integrates sensors, antennas, control systems. Now these are the not just the words, the terminology, these are the components that you need to physically look at, because these are the components which are going to help you, give you feedback, put you in control of what you are doing, of your structures. Because these control systems and the components in the building envelope, they have to be planned earlier on, they have to be put earlier on into your buildings. For example, in autonomous excavation equipment, this is really a field where you need to understand that so far you could not go deep down into the earth, or even if you went, you had to presume, or you had to make certain assumptions that I presume that this is the soil profile. Not anymore. Your structures are becoming heavier. Your structures are behaving in ways which your textbooks had not taught you to. Because we are getting smarter equipments which are able to do phenomenally, unimaginably what we had thought of. They are autonomous. But when they go deep down there are those sensors, there are those antennas, all the control systems that are going to tell you hit a rock or do so and so, so and so, so and so, so and so, so and so. You need to understand your IoT. Drones. Everybody so far is looking at drones from the point of view of good pictures. Yes, but mind well, the whole industry is now using them to improve their performance. Not just that, to in fact do construction itself. A drone is no more just a fragile, small egg food. It can change in size. It can carry very lightly all the equipment, all the material, all the components that so far you could not take. You could not design cranes and ladders to go high up there. You could not have helicopters and planes which would be steady and put those components in place. You also have to think 3D printing. I'm sorry, the slide has printed it wrongly. It's about printing machines. All the IoT, all the 3D printing, all the drones, all the autonomous things are part and parcel of your life and profession right now, today. It is not in the near future. Forget about the further future, because we talk sustainability. The mandate is that you need to be green. The mandate is that you need to be aware of what you are doing, how you are impacting. No more, it was the previous generation, and why do I care? It is the next generation. This is the profession, the generation of the profession, which is taxed for whatever it is going to do. Every step that you take is going to impact many, many more generations. But be aware, every step that you take right now is also going to impact you in this lifetime itself. And therefore, I wanted to stress hugely. You know what? I'll explain this a little bit more in a different context. You can have experts, you can have consultants, you can have people who bring in all the sustainability aspects, just in case you are not able to do it yourself. You can have digital people, you can have experts who can create those algorithms, who are experts in AI. Maybe there are people who are experts in Internet of Things, but they will not be able to help you unless and until you are able to formulate your problem, your question. And therefore, even to formulate the challenge, the problem, so that you are in control of the solutions. Are you getting me? If you are not able to say, I want this in this so and so manner, I want to go to this depth, I want to get every feedback of what is happening when you are excavating to this depth, or I want to reach out to this height and I want feedback of whatever is happening at that height. Now here you are limited by your own domain, your own challenges. You will not dare to design or make a construction plan at unimaginable heights, because you are limited by the domain of knowledge, the expertise that has been given to you so far in your curricula, in your profession, for the construction industry also, people who are in the profession. But if you look at just close by, look at countries around us, look at cities around us. Mumbai is going to phenomenally expand vertically, no more horizontally. So where is this whole need of these civil engineers going to be satisfied from? Will the computer engineers do that? No. Will the energy or the green players do that? No. So everyone is going to look at you, and if you are not able to meet eye to eye or develop the confidence of staking your claims that I want this, only then will the digital, the IoT, the electronics people will put in place what you need. Otherwise, what will happen is they'll just put in place whatever they know, leave you to use it, leave you to get all the results out of it, and there you are. That is also a tough place to be in. That is where you will have to go back and approach them. Better approach them in the beginning. Better learn their domains right now. So smart is not just smart in terms of economy, time, lifelong. Smart is in terms of how well you are understanding the digital transformation. How is it going to help you? So let's look at one aspect of pre-manufacturing, because that is going to be the entire change of scenario that is going to happen in the coming days. So you need to look at the industrialized manufacturing techniques. The construction activity is hugely supported now with pre-manufacturing components. They can help a great deal in smooth construction. It reduces the labor on the site to a certain extent at your host site also. It does have cost benefits and of course fast delivery. So you can add those components of smart construction. Prefabricated systems typically 80% less labor on site compared to the traditional construction. Now there is this also huge demand where the construction industry is really frustrated, because they say that there is no labor that is able to deliver the quality. So either you retrain the entire labor force, wait for them to be trained, check how they are performing, and then turn on to smart construction, or start looking at your manufacturing techniques and see if the machines can do it. And then the labor is always there. The labor is always there to pick, put in place, to transfer, etc., etc. But the quality aspect can be very well controlled and handled. How does it reduce cost? Naturally. Running cost pre-manufacturing does not suffer risk associated with delayed construction, labor, supply chain fragility, material shortages. Everything is now on record. Everything is being handled digitally, and everyone is knowing that yes, by tomorrow morning, 8 a.m., you need to have so and so material on the site. 9 a.m., this is going to happen, etc., etc. Fast delivery, of course, when you handle all of this, it improves the speed. It also improves the quality of the groundwork on the construction site in parallel to the major build phase. Because you are in control of the quality. You are in control of the entire setup. So with the advanced materials that are going to come, I have not yet touched on those advanced material sites, but at least the technologies put together the materials, it helps to improve substantially your performance. It helps to improve also substantially on your goals. You will be able to, many times what happens is that yes, a lot of sustainability is already being addressed, but you do not have the numbers, the facts on your fingertips. When that happens, of course, you are answering randomly. Of course, you are put to a disadvantage because you think that it is happening, but you beautifully incorporate the smart and the sustainable. You are in control of the facts and figures. That not only helps you report, document, that also puts you at the forefront of what you can do to further improve or impact. Let us look at smart materials a little bit. What do we mean by smart materials? The materials which have the ability to respond to change. Change in what conditions? In whichever condition or environment to which they are exposed. And how should they change? There are two possibilities of change, right? It can deteriorate. But no, you want to have a material which will respond in a positive way. When they are exposed to the environmental vagaries, they will respond in a useful manner and also in a repetitive manner. It is not just once that you need them to do that, because the environment is around them is there, and therefore once they have captured that whole challenge, they have to sustain it. It has to be repetitive. And therefore, the structures that incorporate smart materials are now called the smart structures also. So you have smart materials which are developed, which are many of them are already available in practice, which respond to the environmental stimuli such as pressure, temperature, winds. Let us look at concrete, our dear old concrete. When we talk material, the first thing that comes is concrete. Major building material. Almost the entire construction industry is a captive of this material. But we all know that it is vulnerable to the vagaries of the environment. It may collapse, it starts to collapse when it comes in contact with the environmental stimuli, such as water, whatever kind of water it is, the wind, the stresses, pressure. And therefore, a lot of research currently is going into creating smart concrete. When we mean smart, what we mean is it is able to respond. Not just respond in a positive way, but to repeatedly keep on rediscovering itself. It becomes alive, a dynamic element. And for it to be dynamic, we need to know and control it exactly as we want it to behave. You cannot now construct and leave and go to the next site thinking, oh yes, it's a good material, I did my best, and all the best to you, all the best to the building, all the best to the users, all the best to the material. I hope that it will behave well. You can do that. You need to test, you need to understand, you need to modify and do exactly that you want to do right now, so that 10 years, 20 years, 50 years down the line, you know that my material is going to behave exactly as I wanted it to behave, exactly as I had perceived in my design calculations. That is what we mean by smart and sustainable. So if you look at the smart concrete, um, SDC, what do we mean by smart? It does have innovative polymers. What kinds of polymers? Polymers which are going to reorganize, which are going to fill in the gaps, which are going to heal, self-repair, create surfaces which can protect the concrete, right? So these are the polymers which we need to really understand, test. My advice to all the teachers is to take up projects with the students so that they can start looking hands-on, not just reading or getting an idea about what this is. It is always a good idea to bring in a few of the CS, IT, instrumentation, electronics people onto your teams to look at your projects and comment how they can impact that project. That is the best way to learn the digital technologies. That is the best way to generate new ideas about what can happen. Yes, we are in control of our known materials. No, we do not know much about the polymers. We do not know much about what the rubber and the plastic and the chemical and the environment industries are doing. Bring them onto your projects. Ask them. You know, once you know what is needed from you to be smart, what is needed from you to be sustainable as an industry, you can say, how can you impact so that this material behaves like this? Pop comes the answer from the plastic, pop comes the answer from the chemical, from the nanomaterials. This is how you can expand and learn. But that is only theoretical knowledge. What they tell you is, yes, as teachers, as experts in your domains, you are able to understand and internalize, but you need to touch that particular polymer. You need to touch that particular app to use it. Do not be fearful. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid that you are exposed, that you do not know. You do not have to be an all-knowing community. Nobody expects you to do that. You need to be smart enough to expose yourselves to new technology. Declare that you need to understand, learn, and adapt to new technology. Nothing wrong in it. There will be students who know more than you, but no, there will not be a student who will be able to ask questions as smartly as you. So this is how we need to bring in this entire domain. Please start working on small elements, small apps, small software problems where you put in, you learn how to use MATLAB or ANSYS or even Python to understand how it works, not to know the entire thing. You do not have to be experts at that. But you need to put in something hands-on that will give you a feel of what this technology is. You just need to understand, just as you get a new laptop or a new mobile, what would you do? You would try to get the feel of it. You don't want to know how that app is working, what went into the programming, what was the coding that they'd use. No, You want to know how that app works, what is it that the outcomes that you need are there. This is what you also need to do to learn smart technologies, sustainable technologies. So this is something that all of us should look at when we talk about smart materials. Find out what is being used currently in all the domains. By dynamic, we also, this has been really very well understood by now, that the concrete which is produced is highly fluid and self-compacting. So it adds value to the overall production, placement, performance. All the questions that were likely to be asked are now being handled. But are we ready to use it? Are we ready to tweak it? Are we ready to change the proportions? Because each need, each environment, each infrastructure is going to need different proportions. So when we say SDC is a unique concept of low-fine self-compacting concrete prepared using polycarboxylate based superplasticizers. That is not all. You need to know how much, where, in which condition. There is one another aspect. There are many aspects actually to smart materials, but I thought that I can set the ball rolling by talking about what we mean by smart materials. So let's look at this smart concrete which contains dormant bacteria. Everybody knows by now self-healing concrete, and you have dormant bacteria and you can use them. And yes, it does magic, but have we used it? Have we seen how it behaves? Is what I am trying to address today. So these dormant bacteria, when they come in contact with the stimuli, whatever stimuli you want that bacteria to be addressed, like water or limestone, they will be activated. They will fill up the cracks and create a self-healing repair mechanism. The coatings of these polymers will also internally react. They will help when there is rupture. They will be able to create self-healing mechanisms. But this is not anymore a subject of research. This is today, here and now, a subject which is already in practice. Sustainable construction. So first of all, to understand how we can make it sustainable, first of all, let us see what is happening right now. Everybody, many of you must be already familiar with these parameters. As of now, whatever technology, whatever smartness you have incorporated, this is the state of the art. This is what our buildings are doing. This is what our industry is doing. Amongst the entire economy of all the countries, 40% of resources are being used by the construction industry. 35% of greenhouse gas emissions, 30% of energy, 25% of water are being used by our buildings. This is the depth to which we have already impacted the environment. Where do we start? How far will we be able to reach if we start from the bottom? What sustainability are we talking about? This is what we need to understand, the gravity of the situation. No other industry is responsible for this kind of impact on the environment. And I have not even touched that last part, the last bullet. We build, we use, we maintain, and then we move away. mindlessly. We have not yet done any designing, any aspect of reuse, while we know consciously that 40% of the wastage is from the construction industry. Where does all this go? Who is responsible? The IT industry doesn't know how to reuse this waste. The electronics industry has its own domains and own problems. And we just do not have any plans of how to handle this wastage. We need to understand once again, I'm repeating this whole aspect. As an industry, we are using 40% resources. Now, what are those resources? The resources which themselves are emitting greenhouse gas, not just during their manufacturing, also when they are being used, maintained, demolished. The kind of energy that is used in their production, the kind of water. When I've shown this building on this slide, doesn't mean that the users of the building are doing this. The material that has gone into the building is doing this. The kind of land ravage that you do is doing this. Imagine a building of this height and this volume. How many trees? What kind of land? What goes deep inside? I've not even talked about that. It's the industry per se that is creating any structure. It's not just a building. Talk of a flyover, talk of a dam, talk of any which infrastructure, roads, any infrastructure. Whatever goes into it is causing depletion of 40% resources, energy, water, and at the end of the day, you have a huge pile of wastage which is unaddressed. Nobody knows what to do about it because we did not plan for it. And therefore, I go back again to this slide. Also to this slide. I did not talk a lot about the recycling there. This is sustainable. This is going to help us achieve that sustainability. Just as you think create, you have to think demolish. Both are equally important. The entire industry is responsible for where we lead by looking behind at what we are leaving behind. So, the infrastructure, the entire infrastructure is a set of structural elements which support the day-to-day function. We have so far not looked at the day-to-day functions. As an industry, we have looked at the utility, the need of the governments, of the corporations, of the industry, of the client, but we have not been involving ourselves. We thought that was the whole part of project management, of different people delivering the management systems of whoever else, but not the construction industry. If we don't look at the day-to-day functionalities, if we don't understand the day-to-day functionalities, the needs, we will not be able to answer the questions. Have you been sustainable? Have you used smart technologies? Are your buildings sustainable? We won't be able to answer that. Because this is the single factor that influences each one of us day on day, morning, evening, night. It influences the entire human society. Therefore, sustainable infrastructure refers to the designing, building, operating of the structural elements in ways that do not diminish the social, economical, and ecological processes. These are the processes that are going to maintain human equity, human quality of life, and therefore it impacts our natural systems, the ecology, the environment that surrounds us. So we can say that infrastructure is critical to sustainable community development. The infrastructure that we are building today are going to shape tomorrow's communities. And therefore, we need to look at each of these components which are going to impact our infrastructure in smart and sustainable ways. So try and understand what is green energy. Particularly in Gujarat, everyone is, like the first thing that comes to your mind is those huge, beautiful solar panels on every rooftop. Any surface, and you have. Look at what green energy is, how it is going to impact your building, your construction, how it is going to stay there on your structures. Your land use planning. Why would you want to do land use planning? Because this is where you are going to have all your answers to transportation, not just transportation, to all the utilities that can come around is where you need to plan. You can't just say this is the plot and this is the building, finish, my job is done. You need to look around whether the construction material that you are going to use is available nearabouts, whether it reduces transportation, whether it helps you use water and energy efficiently, etc., etc. Waste management does not mean just the water and the waste that comes out of every building. Waste management comprises of everything, every debris during the construction and also when you are demolishing. Along with that, as I said, you need to talk transportation and add the connotation green transportation. These four components have to be thought of. That is why you need to be in control using digital technologies. And all of these can be put together only through smart governance. Not that you are responsible for the smart governance, not that you are entirely have to be in control of the smart governance, but you need to at least create that awareness. You need to create a few of your students who are already aware and who would want to go into smart governance. Otherwise, the fear here is that smart governance means people who are into digital technologies. People who will take control of all your waste management. People who will come and ask you about your waste management. And it is frustrating at that point of time. Because you are the people who know already. But if you have not thought in advance how you are going to handle it, you will become answerable. So better put your own people into this governance who have an insight into how to impact technology, how to impact construction, how to impact material management, how to impact land use. So look at all these five components. They are crucial in shaping the entire construction industry. Try and try to be in control at the end of not every class, but at the end of at least one topic, one domain, put in some spare time to bring in these aspects so that not just your knowledge, but the awareness level of all concerned, all the stakeholders comes into picture. So here comes this whole amalgamation of what we mean by smart and sustainable. In attaining the goal of creating smart and sustainable infrastructure, the urban authorities often pursue goals. Which goals? The goals of economic vibrancy, the goals of competitiveness. Now, these goals will directly be in conflict with your sustainable goals. So you know, the balance will keep on tipping one end to the other, one end to the other. If you say that yes, you have created a very economic solution, a very competitive solution, wherein everything is as it should be, and does answer many questions on the economic front, maybe you have let go of some of your sustainable goals. Because sustainability and economic competitiveness are not things that go together in the same box. They are at loggerheads. They have different purposes. And therefore, you have to understand the commonality. So there will be many elements which will go against sustainability. When we become answerable to urban authorities, or we ourselves are those urban authorities in many cases, because both these components put together are going to be capital intensive. Any digital technology comes with all its connotations of the funds required. Any sustainable, for example, the green technology, the green energy, it's not easy. Capturing solar power is not easy. Huge amount of space, huge amount of batteries, huge amount of conversion. And therefore comes this whole aspect of the administrators, the governing bodies, to get the proper amount of funds. What are these funds needed for? They need to raise funds for creating and operating the facilities. Where do these funds come from? You are already stressed. The finances are stressed. The affordability and the willingness to pay by the citizens is already overused. And therefore, there are these many projects where the local authorities, urban bodies, the central government grants, in fact, the World Bank and the UNDP, and many other forums look at financing. They create green growth funds. They create public-private partnerships so that combination of several funds can be put together and can be put to use nicely. Otherwise, the whole project falls on its face. You cannot risk a project. You cannot leave it halfway, because in the beginning itself you have to include all this technology. You already have to invest it. So much of investment goes into putting all this into your construction. If you want smart concrete, if you want digital transformations, if you want those self-healing concrete, if you want all the feedback and the sensors, it goes in the beginning. And if imagine the source of the fund gradually receding, what happens to the project? And therefore, you also need to be in control of where, what, how. You have to sell your project. You have to convince every which funding agency that yes, you have a good plan which is economically viable and yet it is smart and sustainable. You have a plan which is going to impact the entire human community. I'm not talking global, I'm talking of the local community, and yet it is viable if initial funding is given to you. It is sustainable, not just the material or the structure, the funding also. So it is really very important to understand the economic part of it, get to know the indicators, the parameters which you need to address, which you need to vocally talk about. Now, how can this happen? So there are many agencies. There are some really good forums like the Indian Green Building System, which have standardized, which have said that if you meet so and so parameter, yes, maybe you are achieving the sustainability targets. Then comes the whole new actors, the whole new set of players who will say, yes, I also have this. I have incorporated this. And therefore, so and so is going to, hypothetical. We presume that this particular technology will work. We presume that it has its own advantages. And we are stating without much experimenting, without much results, concrete proof on hand that they will behave in so and so manner. And therefore, the need for standardizing, the need for rating comes into picture. Anything that is marked as sustainable, anything that is marked as smart has to be put together. It's good. It's good that everyone is being rated. Okay, we accept that you did something smart. We accept that you do have a sustainable solution. Put your data, the documentary proof, and let us measure according to our standards whether what you are saying falls into our parameters. That is the rating system. And therefore, it includes many parameters, many indicators. Indicators which will help the agencies standardize and identify the aspects which meet the goals of smart and sustainable. And therefore, as a profession, as a construction expert, we need to know what are those parameters. How will we be rated? You cannot randomly say, yes, I know all the technologies. I have given a very nice building. I have put in the best of concrete and the steel, which is behaving smartly, everything in place. Yeah, maybe someone one day can walk in and find out how well it behaves. No. If you're already knowing what will you be measured against. A very simple example. So when you want to become an engineer, or when you want to practice, there are certain exams that you have to give in the West, very much here also to a certain extent. So let's take that example. If you were not knowing what you are going to be measured with, how will you prepare? You cannot. It's the whole wide world, and you cannot be in control of every which aspect of transportation, of irrigation, of water, of structures, of concrete, of steel. No. So what you do is you look at all the parameters for which you will be measured, all the parameters for which you will be examined, and prepare accordingly. This is what I mean when I say that try and know what are the indicators for smart and sustainable. What are the indicators put in place by various rating agencies, rating systems? Not that you would have to always apply and get the rating. It is not mandatory yet. But it is always better that as it is, if you are going to invest your time, energy, finances, your brains into making your building smart and sustainable, better know that they will be measured for these parameters. Better put them in place early on. Simple exercises, economically viable exercises, if you already know. Very heavy on the finances, very difficult to implement if you get to know those parameters halfway through. You have completed your construction, your building is about to be opened, and oh my God, I didn't know this was to be measured. I didn't put the sensor there. or I didn't put the water fixtures there, etc., etc. You can't add on to meet those indicators. You can always conceive them. Maybe you can always put it aside that yes, at stage 2, at stage 3, at stage 4, I will bring in these parameters. But you need to know those parameters, those indicators for which the rating systems are gearing up already. So here are those rating systems. For smart technologies, you have the entire body of multimodal infrastructure, which is going to look at what is being used. So they are going to look at what are the outcomes that they'll be looking at. Whatever, see, you cannot say, I put in, built in all these smart elements, इसमें ये सेंसर डाला है, उसमें वो फीडबैक सिस्टम है, ये ऐप है, ये एआई है, ये ड्रोन यूज किया था कंस्ट्रक्शन में. Okay, fine, good. I'm impressed. That's all. We'll look at the outcomes. They are going to look at, is it impacting the and impacting the outcomes? Are the goals achieved that you had set out for yourself? And what are those goals? Improved efficiency in investment, improved services, improved delivery. If you are able to prove, yes, with this, so and so has improved, you are meeting their criteria. So there are these whole urban observatories which do real-time urban data gathering, which analyze it continuously. You have, as I already mentioned earlier on, the modern technologies on the digital platforms. These technologies will help you plan for the transportation. They'll help you plan for all the inventories. They will help you do data management. They will help you collaborate and sound to each other, the danger zones, the risk management, the improved construction on-site, off-site, prefabrication. All of these digital technologies are there, and they will be measured that yes, you used, did it impact the efficiency? And also the low carbon technologies and charging infrastructure to support mobility. Maybe, like there are certain which are going to check whether the mobility has been impacted, whether the construction material has been impacted. The other part of rating is the economic vibrancy and competitiveness. As I mentioned, that the local urban authorities for their smart campaigns need to prove that yes, they have achieved competitiveness. So there are many private operators. All these operators, imagine if the each operator does each agency does their work and moves out and leaves what is the transitional part, the parallel part to the other agency. The other agency says, no, I start after this gap. The previous person had to fill that gap. That is where we mean shared responsibility, shared prosperity. You need to build in all these private operators to bring them all onto the same platforms so that there is economic benefit to all the stakeholders. You need to have people, all the players earn. Now, this is a very novel concept because so far the urban bodies, the governance mechanisms, the governments have always been charged, you allowed so and so to prosper. That is not a sin. Only if that person, that agency, that entire system is able to sustain economically, will they be able to contribute towards the entire economic vibrancy. So we need to relearn about how much of shared responsibility, how much of economic benefit we need to bring back to all the stakeholders. even to the citizens. So this is a concept which we have not yet looked at. We need to have the commercial development such that the income from the commercial spaces, the occupiers, and their business activities proliferate. It is important. This is part of the PPP model. You cannot have a governance mechanism whereby you say that you have to do this. I don't care whether you are able to sustain it economically. Because we are dependent on the private players, the private developers, the private agencies. So that is an important aspect of sustainability and smart moves. Another aspect of this economic vibrancy is replicability. Now, if there is a model created by so and so urban agency, and it has really worked very well, I'll show you in my later on slides how this replicability can be used to advantage. But just for now, let us understand that why should another municipality or another corporation reinvent, go out and find out the same sources, same materials, redesign that same model for its own city? What if we are able to replicate, use the same agencies, use the same technology, use the same people to replicate it in the other place? Think of the amount of time, energy, and funds that are saved. So we have to understand both the economic viability as well as the replicability. And now so between the smart and the sustainable. So far we talked only smart and sustainable, but the middle ground is also what we were I wanted you to become aware of about the shared prosperity and about the replicability. So come to the sustainable aspects. What are those sustainability elements? Clean energy, clean transport, solutions which are environmental friendly, solutions which can adapt, which have mechanisms which allow them change so that they are resilient. They have to be thought of in this manner. And so we need to look at each aspect of what we are talking about when we talk sustainability vis-a-vis our infrastructure. Talk clean energy. We have, as I mentioned earlier also, rooftop, solar renewable energies, installing all the buildings that will need. What are the outcomes? Low carbon technology. We have charging stations, we have charging infrastructure that will also support e-mobility, everything done, yes. But we also need to look at the economic viability, its maintenance, and about its reuse. Similarly, clean transportation, you need to look at reduced congestions. You need to keep a model which is dynamic, which can shift. A model wherein you can have a strong public transportation system, but then what if the public transportation system does not have small nerves and arteries which make the citizens able to reach that transportation from their home with an ease of access? So these are complex models. We need to talk, think, implement as civil engineers about these models. You cannot just say that you reduce the journey time and you reduce the fuel savings. You need to have an end-to-end solution. So if you are able to do this beautifully, to shift the entire transportation to a good public transportation system. People in Gujarat are now very familiar with all those metros and all those flyovers and all those bridges that are coming up. Trying to address this transportation question also leads us finally to huge amount of reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, the GHG emissions. And therefore, finally, we are able to say that we were able to impact, reduce this much of the GHG, and therefore we are giving so and so environmental friendly solutions. So what are those nature-based environmental friendly solutions? Infrastructure that improves the last mile connectivity. Infrastructure that rejuvenates our public places, our public parks, our green spaces. These are not just fancy words put on a slide anymore. These are the need of the hour vis-a-vis every structure that you are going to construct right now. Looking at the kind of risk that our infrastructure is facing, very recently we saw the whole country being raided by the cyclones. We saw the kind of cloud bursts last year. So we need to have structures that are resilient, that can adapt. We need to have structures. Yes, you will have to identify the cost components, you will have to justify the cost components, and be able to show how in the long term you are ultimately making life easier, worth it, and therefore there is an economic aspect to that solution. So you need to monitor everything that is happening now so that you can state at the end that yes, you inbuilt the resilience, you inbuilt the adaptation of those infrastructure to resist the natural risk. Man-made risk also, why just natural? Man-made also. Fire is a big worry, cause of worry. And in order to have that fire resilience, what goes in? A lot of money, a lot of redesigning, a lot of rehabilitation. Is it worth it? Yes. Right now, maybe not so important right now, but yes, very much needed in case there is a 1 in 100 chance that this occurs. So you have to be able to vie your sustainability vis-a-vis the smartness, vis-a-vis the economic viability. You need to be able to articulate vocally why so and so technology, why so and so material, why so and so decision needs to go into your infrastructure right now. Maybe you cannot show the economic viability at this point of time. You have to plan, extrapolate, and show the economic viability over the lifetime use of the infrastructure that you are creating today. So some of the factors, the corollary benefits that all this investment can, to put the right words into your mouth, is reduce travel time. It saves time, economic viability, fuel that is saved due to the smooth travel, less congestion, public switching to public transport, significant reduction in GHG, carbon credit earned, increases the commercial activities, benefits the employment, increases trade, increases overall the economic costs, and impacts hugely the quality of each individual citizen. You are addressing the community, the human societal needs. So let's now understand. I have put in so many factors saying you need to do this, you need to do this. So here comes this poor civil engineer. So what am I supposed to do? How much can I do? You are putting in a lot of responsibility. You want me to be a magician, to know my construction, to know my material, to be responsible for all the smart technology, to be responsible for the sustainability. Am I equipped for that? So let's understand the roles. The role of the civil engineer, it's not just limited to any planning. It is limited not just to just the designing of one aspect of the structure. You need to understand the whole in order to do the part. So you have to lead your role in planning, designing, building, and ensuring a sustainable future. How? By all those technologies that I talked about. By being the master. When I say master, I don't mean you have to create the technology. By master, I mean you need to know the know-how of using the technology. To be able to question, to be able to demand, to be able to foresee, and also supervise and inspect the technology. So, therefore, all the engineers have to actively collaborate. Where? On multidisciplinary teams. Now let's stop for a moment and think of a multidisciplinary team on any infrastructure, even the smallest of smallest buildings that you can conceive of. What kind of a multidisciplinary team do you envisage? So far, you would envisage a multidisciplinary team when you talked about a building in terms of your air conditioning, in terms of your ventilation, in terms of your electrification, and naturally as civil engineers, your construction materials, etc., etc. That was the domain, that was your vision, that was what you could visualize when you said that yes, you have to talk on teams, you have to be able to work on teams, you have to know the language, you have to know the technology. Multidisciplinary today includes all of these. Yes, also includes IoT, also includes AI, also includes the green energy. Might not be the civil engineers. Bring them in. It is going to be uncomfortable because these are the people who are going to bring in a lot of discomfort by their demands, by their parameters, by their indicators, because that involves huge amount of cost. Number one, huge amount of energy, intelligence, efficiency, and your knowledge. It is going to put you on the edge of all the knowledge, all your expertise, all your intelligence. It is going to challenge you into domains that you had not foreseen. No one in your classrooms, no one in your profession, no one in your industry had ever talked about, and you are there. That is the role of a civil engineer today. So, critical elements for sustainable infrastructure justify the life cycle cost. So what do you need to do that for that? Involves assessment of service life, assets, periodic maintenance, repairs, and an element majorly performed routinely by the civil and structural engineers. The next aspect, minimize the use of non-renewable resources. This has to be done from the very beginning, and therefore what you need to do is judicious use of non-renewable resources, progressive reduction, resource use for a given level of service, bring in resiliency, bring in feasibility of restoration. We talk smart concrete, talk smart steel. You need to be in control so that this is already answered. And what are your plans for resiliency? Creating assets which are resilient to natural, as I said, man-made, and this requires significant inputs, not just as a construction industry, also in terms of planning, commissioning, and operationalizing. So, first and foremost, try and distinguish what is unsustainable and what is sustainable. How much of the sustainable can be brought in and how much of the unsustainable can be pushed out. That is where your comfort level will stand. You cannot just say, oh yes, today I take a pledge, I'm going to do only sustainable technology. Not possible. You have to very slowly, very, very minutely take a feel of how you can push out and adapt, adopt, implement sustainable. Push out unsustainable so that you know what that vacuum is, you know what the cost is, then gradually keep moving to the sustainable. Not just in terms of the materials, you also need to adopt sustainable practices. As I said, when I say sustainable practices in design, planning, and construction, I mean all that smartness that I talked on that earlier slide. Use all digital technologies. It does involve a lot of cost and time and efficiency. There is an increase, phenomenal increase, and that is also what sustainable practice is all about. We have to understand to collaborate, we have to understand to learn the language of the other domains, and we have to understand how they are going to impact us so that you can use them comfortably. So the entire construction sector needs to be revamped to make it economically viable, environmentally benign, not malignant. And at the same time, all the social players, all the social actors have to accept it. So let's look at the old and the new paradigms. By old, I really mean, I'm not sure whether I should call it old, because even to this date, most of the time, the small players in this industry think only in terms of time and cost. Now, because of the basic standards that are improving by the construction industry, by the big players, quality is also an aspect. As I gave you that example of that small that hole in which the nut would either have a play or would not fit. It's that close that you can get to. So therefore, quality has become mandatory. But it is still the old paradigm. You cannot go ahead thinking only in terms of time, cost, quality. You have to bring in the bigger paradigms right now, because believe me, the entire world, the entire country, and the entire state is being subjected by other domains to these norms. Like it or not, adapt or not, you are already into those rating systems, those marking paradigms. Those parameters are already in place. It is just that you are not able to see them because they have not popped up. They have not yet eliminated that this is the rating that suddenly comes for a building, and they will say 1-star rating. Same building in the neighborhood, I mean, not same, similar building in the neighborhood, 5-star rating. Pop goes your entire effort, your office, your management gone. So therefore, the new paradigm, the current paradigm expands on hugely on the time, cost, and quality. It is going to measure. And mind well, these are very smart people. They already have the know-how to measure human satisfaction. So far, that was an abstract phenomenon. That was something that could be subjected to, argued, ruled out. People who were smart enough could say that, yes, I can prove that human satisfaction has been achieved. No more so. They have parameters. They are going to check. They are going to validate. They are going to do a 360-degree feedback. And comes the answer, the other end, the client, the satisfaction of the citizens has not been addressed. You're just saying that I put in place such and such and such and such luxury, which has impacted the quality of life, is going to be measured by the citizen who will say, no, it did not help me. It was costly. I did put in all the cost, but my satisfaction level is minimal. You need to think about the consumption of the material, the consumption of the resources, the consumption of the energy that is going into your decision right now. At the end, you will be measured for all the negative environmental impact, and you will not be able to shirk out of that responsibility. So, time cost quality, yes, very much. It has to be at the core, but it will be measured against human satisfaction, use of consumption of material, consumption of energy, and against the environmental impact that your decisions are making. This is the paradigm we need to look at. And therefore, let us try to understand what we mean by sustainable construction practices. Sustainable construction practices are the ones that fit well with the goals of sustainable developments, as well as to serve, contribute, support, advance sustainable development by reducing the risk, enhancing cost effectiveness, improving process efficiency, creating processes, products, services that are environmentally benign and benefiting to the humans. Objectives, as I have again and again said, social, environmental, economic. Key elements: design integration, material selection, resource conservation, lean manufacturing, and construction waste management. What do we look at when we talk about design integration? You have the client and you have so many other players, so many stakeholders. You need to integrate the entire decision making, the designability, the constructability, so that your design is conflict free. Ultimately, you have to show outcomes which have reduced the rework, the waiting time, and the over processing. What conservation are we talking about? Land, water, materials, energy. Everything is at a cost. Better start looking at how much you can conserve by so-and-so decision. Use non-toxic materials, employ recirculating systems, scrap all the huge energy consumption systems, choose materials and methods which use less energy, and you are on firm ground. So this is where I wanted to culminate, to bring to an end what we started with. When we talk of construction waste management, we have to do a circular economy. We have to not say build, operate, maintain, leave. We have to put a circle around the entire building life system, wherein we have built into it the waste management also. If you have thought about the waste management, you are using it to your advantage. You are using it to the advantage of the economy. You are using it to the advantage to the built environment, and therefore the ultimately the society and the human comfort. So strive for material efficiency, design low maintenance, design long life. Choose materials which are adaptable, which can be reused. It can also be thought of in the process of deconstruction, demolition, and how to reuse all these waste material. Whether you are able to use the material after it becomes a waste. Lean construction, of course, this has to be looked into. Concrete, as I said earlier, 1 ton of cement production itself releases 0.9 tons of carbon dioxide. 1 ton of cement consumed in concrete absorbs 0.4 tons of CO2. तो थोड़ा बहुत उसने कम किया. Ultimately, the net CO2 released in cement production is 0.5 tons of carbon dioxide. And look at the construction that is happening using all that cement. So create your own roadmaps, create sustainable structures using all the technology, all the materials, and all your know-how as a good civil engineer. Alternative materials. I'll share these slides. Of course, this is very common knowledge now, and everybody knows what are those alternate materials. They have been experimented, they have been recycled, they have been used. Some good examples, IIT Madras. So they did 4 MLD capacity sewage treatment plant, and look at what they were able to do. It is in use. It currently receives 2.5 mld of sewage. It is retreated using sequential batch processing and reused in sanitation, flushing, and gardening. The excess volume of the treated water is then pumped into the lakes on the campus before further treating the water and distributing it through the metro water supply in the pipeline connected to the campus. So it goes out, it goes into the city, reused. So the project is a standalone sustainable water supply system that caters to the requirement of 18,000 people within the campus. Look at how this is already being done. And therefore, Chennai, looking at the IIT Madras model, has started deploying it. They have critically designed the entire project and they are going to replicate the entire project. Ultimately, they'll be able to impact their entire population. So this is how we need to look at good case studies. This is how we need to start implementing smart projects. Our own Sabarmati Riverfront project. What was the objective? Environmental improvement, social infrastructure, sustainable development. So when we started doing this project, we had these huge challenges of rehabilitation. We had the challenges of the sewage, of the drainage. Another project which is in planning, which has not yet come up, is the Megapatta city in Pune. 50 square meters developed all around the city, band of 6 meters with plants, trees that absorb the sound and the dust, fly ash based concrete, glasses to separate the air columns, energy, rooftop solar, drainage systems similar to the IIT Madras, sidewalks, and you have beautiful, sustainable, smart project. Imperatives: integrate smart and sustainable solutions. It's not just a fancy word. Know the technology, incorporate it. The extent of using smart elements must be gauged in local and economic context. Otherwise, it will prove to be very costly and not acceptable to the local units. Keep using, keep researching, keep doing hands-on on small projects that will increase the comfort level, the confidence level for you to become aware. Spread the awareness to your students. Use the codal specifications, use the standards, use the new materials and their properties to your advantage. And you will be masters of smart and sustainable construction. Thank you. So I end my talk here.
Thank you, madam. The participants, if you have any question, you can raise in chat box. We have 5 to 10 minutes available for question and answer session. Anyone have any question, query related to sustainable infrastructure development and infrastructure construction? Okay. Thank you, madam, for enlightening the participant in the area of sustainable construction and infrastructure very deeply and in a very lucid manner.
Thank you.
Vigorously what aspect we need to consider for sustainable construction point of view. Definitely participant will get enriched through your expertise, and in future also, madam, we will get advantages of your expertise.
Sure.
Thank you, madam, once again for sparing your valuable time in spite of your today's schedule. And you have to rush to meeting at 11 o'clock, but still though you have managed up to 12 o'clock. So from all the participant point of view and from our GCDC, GEC Dahod Institute of point of view also, thank you very much, madam.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'll take lead.
Okay, thank you. This is instruction to the participants. We will have a next session will be on 1 o'clock, and in between from 12 to 1 we have a lunch break. So though if you have any queries related to your credential, related to login issues, or anything related to FDP, you can always ask here. Otherwise, you can drop your question in queries in WhatsApp media also group that we will have. Otherwise, you can write in chat box also in between the session. So we'll try to solve the same. Okay. So thank you for attending this first session on the sustainable infrastructure, construction and infrastructure. So we will meet at 1 o'clock for next session, and that will be regarding the repair and retrofitting of the structure. Thank you very much.